Hi there. Welcome to another episode of the Okanagan Gardener and Forager channel. Are you tired of asking random people in person and on the internet if you can eat different plants? And the inevitable upset stomachs that come from just randomly trying and eating different plants? Well, if you are, then maybe this book will help. Edible Wild Plants by Thomas S. Elias and Peter A. Dykeman. I'm going to show you some of it and tell you what I think about it. Edible Wild Plants by Thomas S. Elias and Peter A. Dykeman. North American Field Guide to over 200 natural foods. Just a quick look at the table of contents. One thing that I'll say about this book that I think is cool is sort of the way it's organized into seasons. It's been handy for me for a couple of reasons. I like to rate books. I've been rating books on 4 categories, and the first one is pictures, which to me is a very important one for a book. And this book, here's some samples of them, does have nice color pictures, but the problem that I have with it is I think it's because there's 200 plants in here, so you can only have so much about each one. They're kind of smaller and only show maybe 1 or 2 growth stages, so I've given it 2 out of 5 on pictures, even though they are sometimes good pictures, but there are some black and white ones, and we've got a large volume of plants, so maybe the amount of pictures has to be somewhat limited. The next category that I will rate this book on is book learning factor, and that is something just that I say is about just pure density of information, and each one of the plants is organized in a way that I think is helpful, and it has a lot of information in one place. Information about the identification, where to find it, when it's growing, those sorts of things. So there's a lot for each one. And some other things that I like about the way it's organized is information about poisonous lookalikes. And even in this book, there is a section on poisonous plants. And that's something, especially for new foragers, I think is something we're a little more concerned about, is not wanting to get that poisonous thing. So also, book learning factor, this isn't always available, but there's this nutritional content, which is kind of cool, because you hear a lot about what's in different things, but sometimes it's not clear what kind of nutritional content you're getting out of wild edibles. So overall, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 for book learning factor. The next category that I will rate this book on is readability, and it says right in the title, this is a field guide, and I think that is accurate. It's a field guide. It's not really particularly readable. There is an introduction section which has some background on different plants, or not, well, different plants, but plants overall, which is readable, but most of the book is well, there's also this section here, which I haven't used it very much myself because I like the season layout, but there's different categories for each of the different plants, and you can find them on the pages. There's another section that lays them out with these symbols corresponding to what they can be used for. But really, when you're reading the book, it's a field guide, and so you're not reading this to find out what goes on with the characters and that kind of stuff. This is specific information about specific plants. So are you going to read this cover to cover? Maybe not. I don't think that's what you're getting it for. So it's not particularly readable. So for readability, I gave it a 2 out of 5. The last category that I like to rate books on is what I call the Okanagan Gardener and Forager factor. This is an overall subjective rating that I like to give things. And, because for me, it's subjective to where I'm from, it's going to be different than it might be for somebody who lives somewhere else. I'll say a little bit more that I like about it is these sorts of things that are in here. It shows at a quick glance where you're going to find certain plants. I really think it's cool the way the book is organized into seasons. And spring, you go here and then you can find, and which I've done sometimes. I look, okay, what season is it? Let's see what I might be able to find. So I think that's cool. I also like the large number of plants, and there's some other books out there that might have 400 or so plants, but they're covered very minimally. So there's a pretty good amount of coverage given that there's over 200 species in here. And what I also appreciate is the poisonous section, which I already described, but I do think that's very helpful to have in here. So it's for all of North America, so there's a lot of plants for me that I'm not going to see very much of. So, take that for what it's worth. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid book, and the way, something else that's cool is for each species it tells you a way to prepare it, and that's cool because maybe we're not just looking at the plants, maybe we're actually going to eat them or make some tea or whatever with them. So that's neat. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 for the Okanagan Gardener and Forager Factor. Edible Wild Plants by Thomas S. Elias and Peter A. Dykeman. Overall, I gave it a 3.375 out of 5, which is an alright score. I think what this book does is it's covering a lot of plants over a large geographic area, and that is hard to do. And also, it does a decent job of kind of covering it right from the beginning to the end of foraging, providing some basic information and then giving information about each plant, about how you can prepare it. So that's pretty cool. For me, I think more region-specific books are maybe more valuable in many ways, but maybe for a start-out book or a good overall one, this one's pretty solid. Anyway, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing, leave a comment if you like the book, or what other one would you recommend? Anyway, thanks for watching.